Why do we tip based on the cost of the meal? Tipping culture is stupid in general, but why are we required to tip based on the cost of the meal? If the food is at the same location restaurant, a pasta dish that costs $12 versus say a surf and turf dish that costs $40 seems like it's the same amount of work for the server. Yet the former makes 1/3 of the tip. Same goes for things like DoorDash. If you order $100 of food, it will likely be packaged nicely in a bigger bag by the restaurant. It will require roughly the same amount of work a $10 order takes. Why do we tip? You're right. Basing the recommended tip percentage off the meal cost is stupid. I require the same amount of service whether I get a burger or the surf and turf W extra shrimp. Yet one might recommend double the tip rate. We shouldn't tip at all. Employers should pay their employees enough money to live on, and a tip should be seen as an extra bonus that they get sometimes. I think the answer is that it's just a reflection of what you can afford. If you spend $200 on a meal and only tip $10, you're demonstrating how little you care. If you can only afford a $40 meal but you tip $10, you're being generous. I hate tipping culture, but that's the idea. It's tied your wealth and how much you are demonstrating that you can afford for good service. I have asked the same questions. Like, shouldn't you tip based on number of plates, number of meals, number of trips it took for waitress to come to your table, or something related to the work itself? Ordering a meal with lobster and Wagyu beef for $100 and ordering a Caesar salad for $15 requires the same amount of work from wait staff, right? So why does one deserve a $20 tip and the other a $3 tip? All these people saying tipping is needed. 1. I need to support my family, so you better tip me. 2. Well, if you are cheap, don't eat out. 3. Because I'm getting paid $2.13 hour, so it's your responsibility. I wonder how other countries such as Japan with no tipping culture do it then. It's the American culture system that's to blame. It's the restaurant owners who don't want to pay a livable wage. Why put the stress to tip on customers though? Why call customers cheap because they aren't paying you 20 tip, which supposedly should be non-mandatory? I've never understood this aspect of tipping. A server working at a posh restaurant where my meal cost $100 isn't more deserving than the dead on her feet waitress at a diner where my bill comes to $15. I say the same thing when Uber Eats tells me to tip based on the price before the discount. Like, for real, shut the fuck up. They're carrying a bag from the restaurant to their car, and then from the car to my house. Uber Eats is already charging me for the delivery. Literally, what fuck am I paying for then? I think customers should have the option of not having a server. Personally, I could care less about the experience of having one. I'd rather pick up my food, sit down, clean up after myself. I don't see why I need it delivered. Asked how my food is. Seems unneeded. Am I too European to relate to this question? That's a good point, and I think about it myself. Does the waiter at a cheap restaurant work as hard as the waiter at a high-end restaurant? I think they probably do about the same amount of work, and deserve the same tip. It's bullshit, particularly when it comes to delivery drivers. If the Chinese place gives you one small bag or one bigger bag, it's still one bag. And even if it was two, it's no more difficult for that driver. My $5 tip isn't gonna turn into a $15 tip just because the bag was a little bigger. Not a fan of tip culture, though I still always tip. Business owners hold zero responsibility in the eyes of servers, and it's getting really old. Lots of servers make bank, so should really quit their bitching. Many make more than people who help save lives for a living. But yet they keep complaining. All the servers I know are able to take multiple vacations a year. have new cars. And that's someone who works at a truck stop diner. Nothing fancy. The public already pays a huge percentage of their wages, so if they want to be even more selfish, maybe they should go after their boss? Yes, that's why I hate tipping. Make it the same number at like $0.10 based on service. And it maxes out at that. But if the waiter makes same steps, asks same questions to me and the other person, but I've meal costs double than the other, I don't see how the person with the higher meal cost should tip more. And with meals prices that have shot up, I now have to tip more. Stupid. Many of the restaurants in our town gave free meals to veterans on Veterans Day, and it's a great thing to do. We went to our usual restaurant and it was slammed. People were ordering lobster, etc., and generally making pigs of themselves for free. The servers told us the next day that the tips were terrible to non-existent. I wish I could change the legal 2.50 cent per hour wage, but I don't have the power to do so. People have trashy manners. It makes me sick. How about tipping based on the number of people served? Kids under 6 count as 2 people. Because the question is asked every single day. Oh, that's because you are paying it. Try it anywhere else. Hey boss. So I noticed you have increased prices. That's gonna go really well. Anyways, I remember working in a restaurant and telling the servers that if I won the lottery and went to eat a $10,000 steak, there's no way in hell I am tipping $2,000 on that. Bruh. I almost got stoned to death that day. Like, yeah, sure. Here's $2,000. Because you put your phone down for 35 seconds to bring out a plate. I don't have a problem tipping on the cost of the meal. That's how tip workers' pay is adjusted for inflation. My gripe is with raising the standard percentage. Forever and ever. A good tip was 15. In the past 3-4 years, suggested tip percentages are 18-22. So not only have prices increased, the expectation now is to give a larger tip on the increased price. Bullocks. Go to a strip club and don't tip, lol. It's an antiquated system that the restaurant industry clings to so they can make more money. Nothing about it is really fair or makes sense. It makes no sense at all. Like everything about US tipping culture. Fucking exactly. Nobody worked harder to make it. Steak or burger. It's gonna take the same effort. Tipping is bullshit. Ban, really? You've been paid for your service. Get over it. Because you live in America where you have to tip. This is only an American issue. Your tipping culture is weird. Employees should be paid better. I don't use the bill total as a basis for my tip. I tip based on the service I got. If my food arrives hot, I never waited for a drink and had good communication with my server, I tip well. It doesn't matter if I'm at Denny's or a high-end restaurant. The servers at Denny's usually ask if I'm sure when I add the tip because it's a lot more than they are used to. There's also occasions where the length of time we're there factors in. When we go out to eat with my in-laws, it's an event and we can be there for quite a while, so they will add more to the tip to make up for hogging the table. I've scrolled pretty far and haven't seen anything resembling an answer to Op's question. It's all about incentives. Tips incentivize the server to sell more or higher priced items for the restaurant. Think of it as a commission more than a tip. I don't tip anymore, as seems this service charge is appearing everywhere on bills that I've never seen before in many countries. Seen 10.25 added to the food. Feels like they're advertising the food as affordable. But the reality in the end can be shocking for a family going out to eat. I tip based on my experience. If they made it pleasant, they get a tip. If they didn't, I don't tip. If I bring kids, I tip heavily. It's all about how the meal went, not what it cost.